Hello my dear students. So I am going to continue the questions given in your exercise book. So this is the lesson related to reproduction, continuity of life. So under that we have discussed the different methods of reproduction and the vegetative and sexual reproduction of plants as well as reproduction of men. So this is the 7th question. Write down the problems that may arise if dispersal of fruits and seeds does not occur. So you all know the reason why dispersal of fruits and seeds need to occur. If they all fall under the mother plant and start to germinate there, then of course there will be competition for all the essential factors. So when they get dispersed, this competition will be decreased. So here the question is, write down the problems that may arise if dispersal of fruits and seeds does not occur. So there you have to write the answer according to the question, students. So here we will have to say the first problem, there will be competition for essential factors. So the next one, what is the other advantage? When they get dispersed, they find a new habitat. So here if they don't get dispersed, they will not be able to find new habitats. So plants will not find new habitats. What is the other problem? The next one. The diversity of habitats will not increase. If the plants get the seeds and fruits get dispersed, there will be more different types of species in a particular area. So the diversity will increase. But if there is no dispersal of fruits and seeds, the diversity of habitats will not increase. So here we can see diversity of habitats will not increase. Another problem. Normally when seeds and fruits get dispersed, they will find an environment where they are protected from pests and diseases. So here, if they don't get dispersed, there is a high chance that they will be affected by pests and diseases. So that is the next problem. New plants can be affected by pests and diseases. So those are the problems, students. What is the question? Write down the problems that may arise if dispersal of fruits and seeds does not occur. So there will be competition for essential factors. You all know the factors. Air, water, sunlight, even nutrients, space. So all those are the essential factors. Then plants will not find a new habitat. Diversity of habitats will not increase. And also new plants can be affected by pests and diseases. So those are the problems that may arise if dispersal of fruits and seeds does not occur. So with that, students, I will move on to the next question. So question number 8. Enlist the changes in males and females during puberty. So you all know, students, puberty is what we call as adolescence due to the hormonal changes, and that leads to secondary sexual characteristics developing in both males and females. And there are some similar characteristic changes, some are different. So they want us to list the changes in males and females during puberty. So then, what is the first change? Pubertal hair grows on the face, then the chest, armpits and the genital areas. That is one change that you can see in males. So we can say pubertal hair grows on face, chest, armpits and genital areas. A similar change occurs in females as well. So here also pubertal hair grows in armpits and genital areas. Then of course, there is another change that is common to both males and females. First I will write those two changes. Thereafter we will look at the specific changes. What is the other one? Growth of bones and muscles are accelerated. Therefore, the growth of body is accelerated. So here we can say bones and muscles grow faster and the growth of body is accelerated. Same occurs for females as well. Bones and muscles grow faster and the growth of body is accelerated. Then, if we look at the other changes taking place in males, what can you say? The larynx enlarges and the voice becomes deep. So here we can say larynx enlarges and the voice becomes deep. What else happens? In males, students, we have written the growth of pubertal hair, then accelerated growth of muscles and the growth of the body. Then the change in larynx. Larynx, you can remember, that is known as the Adam's apple. It enlarges and the voice becomes deep. And also, you can remember the change happening in the ovaries. Then you all can remember, students, the main function or the main change taking place in the male reproductive system. The testes start to produce sperm. So that is another change. Testes start to produce sperms. So we have written down a few changes for males during puberty. Then I will write down the changes taking place in females. So I said pubertal hair grows in armpits and genital areas. Then bones and muscles grow faster and the growth of body is accelerated. Then you can remember the mammary gland starts to develop. That is another change. Mammary gland starts to develop, or you can say grow, or size will increase. Another change that you can think of for females. What can you write? The deposit of fat under the subcutaneous layer or hypodermal fat deposit takes place. Therefore, the body becomes fat. So, here we can say deposit of hypodermal fat layer occurs. The body becomes fat. Then students, you all can remember one thing I have left out here. In males, the shoulders grow wider or the shoulder widens. The same way, in females, the pubic region becomes wider. So, those two changes take place in males and females as well. So, for males, we can say the shoulders become wide. The same way, in females, pubic region widens. Then in females, what is the other change taking place? The ovulation starts, the development of ova in the ovaries and the releasing of the ovum, and thereafter the menstrual cycle starts. So, that also occurs after puberty. So, ovary produces and releases ovum. The menstrual cycle takes place. So, those are the changes taking place in males and females. We will go through the changes again. So, first I'll go through the changes taking place in males. Concentrate on that. Pubertal hair grows on face, chest, armpits and genital areas. Bones and muscles grow faster and the growth of body is accelerated. Larynx enlarges and the voice becomes deep. Then we have the testes start to produce sperms and the shoulders become wide. The same way, if we look at the changes taking place in females. Pubertal hair grows in armpits and genital areas. Then bones and muscles grow faster and the growth of body is accelerated. Mammary gland starts to develop or it becomes larger. Then deposit of hypodermal fat layer takes place. With that, the body becomes fat. Right. So, then you can see the pubic region widens and the ovary produces and releases ovum. With that, the menstrual cycle starts and thereafter the menstrual cycle continues. So, those are the changes that take place during puberty or with puberty. These are the changes taking place in males and females. So, I am sure students you would have written down all these changes. Maybe you all would have written them in a different order. That is perfectly okay as long as you include all the changes that are taking place. With that, I will move on to the next question. So, here you can see students, question number 9. Given below is a diagram of a female reproductive system. Name the parts indicated. So, here you all can see the female reproductive system. You all can identify the parts as well. So, if we look at the whole diagram students, you all know the parts of the female reproductive system. Here we have one part, that is the uterus. That is where the fetus will develop. Then you have the ovary here, and from the uterus you all can identify the 3 parts of the uterus: the fundus, the body and the cervix. And thereafter, after the cervix, you get the vagina. And from the fundus, towards either side you can see the fallopian tube. And here the end of the fallopian tube, they have the finger-like projection, that is the fimbria. So then we have the two ovaries there. Inside is the lumen of the uterus and this is the wall of the uterus. So those are the parts of the female reproductive system shown here. Out of that, we need to identify the parts labeled as A, B, C, D only. So if we write down those parts, what is A? This is the fallopian tube. This part is the fimbria. So A is fimbria. Then what is B? It is the ovary. And here we have C, vagina. And D, lumen of uterus. Lumen of uterus. So those are the parts that you need to label. I am sure you all can do that. With that, students, I will move on to the next slide. So here question number 10, given below is a diagram of a male reproductive system. Name the parts indicated. So there are many parts indicated. You all can see, students, this diagram is somewhat different from the diagram that we labeled before in the lesson. But you all can identify the parts. I will start from this side. Although the number starts from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 like that. I will start from this side so that it is convenient to label them. So before we do the labeling, you all can see this part is the scrotal sac or scrotum or testis sac, inside which you get the testis. And testis, above the testis, you all can remember the epididymis. From the epididymis, what happens? It is vas deferens that takes the sperm out to the seminal vesicle. So here it will be the seminal vesicle. And with the seminal vesicle, what is connected there? It has to be the two glands. This gland is the Cooper's gland and this is the prostate gland. So those are the glands associated with the male reproductive system. And here you can see, students, this is the bladder. From the bladder we get the urethra, and you all know, students, urethra is common to both the reproductive system as well as the excretory system. And here this is the muscular structure, the penis. So those are the parts that you need to identify in this. In addition to that, you can see the part here. Now normally in males, you all know, students, there are two openings. One is the urethra, the other one is the anus. Anus is part of the digestive system. So here this is the anal opening and that is connected to the rectum. So through that only the feces is released out of the body. Remember, students, that is not an excretory product. It is released out from the digestive system through the anus. So those are the parts shown here. So as I said, I am not going to use the number in order. I will label from one side. So here I told you all this first structure is the bladder. So we can write it as bladder or urinary bladder. This is the bladder. Either way is fine, bladder or urinary bladder. Then what is this structure, students? It is the prostate gland. So that is the prostate gland. Then what do we have here? This is the urethra. So this structure is the penis. Then at the bottom, here we have three structures. The one outside the outer covering is the scrotum. Then inside we have the testis. Then above the testis is the epididymis. Then here we have the fourth one, that is the vas deferens. Vas deferens. Then what is this structure? I told you all the Cooper's gland or the Cowper's gland. In the diagram that we labeled before in the lesson, we could not see the Cooper's gland. But in this diagram, you all can see that. It is the Cooper's gland. Cooper's gland. Then this one I told you all is the rectum. And here we have the seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle. So those are the parts given in the diagram. If we start from 1 is scrotum, 2 is testis, 3 epididymis, then 4 is vas deferens, 5 is the Cooper's gland, 6 is the rectum, 7 is the seminal vesicle, then we have 8 bladder, 9 prostate gland, then we have 10 urethra and 11 penis. So I am sure you all also would have labeled all these parts correctly. With that, students, I will move on to the next slide. So here, this is question number 11. This is question number 11. A line diagram of a typical flower is given below. Why do we say typical flower? Because it includes all the parts that could be present in a flower. And also, it contains both the male and female reproductive parts. Name the parts indicated. So, you all know this is a longitudinal section. So, again students, it is labeled as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H and I, J. But I will start labeling from this side so it is more convenient. You all can see, since we don't have enough space to write here, I will write it below. So, then of course, it's easy for you all. So, A. What is structure A? You can see part of the female reproductive system or pistil or gynosium, that is stigma. A is stigma. What is B? B, here you can see it is the style. Then we have C. What is C here? That is the ovary. D, you have D inside the ovary. This is marked there. So that is the ovule. D is ovule. Then we have E. E is marked here. What is this structure? You all can remember students. The green color structure. The sepal. Sepals, a whorl of sepals make up the calyx. So E is sepal. Since only one is shown there, we can easily write it as sepals. If the whorl of sepals is shown, then of course you will be writing it as calyx. Then after E, what do we have here? That is a petal. The colorful part of the flower. Petals make up the corolla. So here F of course is petal. Then after that, what do we have? E, F, G. G, part of the male reproductive structure, that is the filament, and H is the anther. Both together is given as J, that is going to be the androsium or the stamen. So here we have E, F, G. G is the filament. H is the anther, and E, F, G, H. I of course is marked here, that includes stigma, style and ovary. So that is the gynosium or the pistil. I will write the I on the other side down here. So E, F, G, H. I is the gynosium or what we call as pistil. And J is what? It is the androsium or stamen. So, you all can identify all the parts. A, stigma, B, style, C, ovary, then D, ovule, E, sepals, F petals, G filament, anther. Then we have I gynoecium or pistil and J androecium or stamen. I am sure you all can identify all the parts shown in the diagram as well. So with that, students, we have come to the end of the questions in your textbook. So hereafter, I will be discussing some extra questions. So we have extra question 1. Select the most suitable answer. You are familiar with these type of questions. What are they? They are the MCQ type or multiple choice questions. So the first one, not an example of natural vegetative reproduction. So here you have to look at the term not an example of natural vegetative reproduction. Bulbil, it is a natural structure. Then bud grafting, that is an artificial propagation of plants. Then root, again natural vegetative part that also reproduces. Stem tubers, again an underground stem, a natural vegetative part. So out of these 4, bud grafting is the artificial vegetative propagation. All the other 3, bulbil, root and stem tubers, are natural vegetative propagative methods. So the answer is bud grafting. Then question number 2. A seed that is not propagated by water. So you all have to look at the seeds and try to identify by what method they are propagated. So coconut, it is propagated by water. You all can remember that is why it has a thick skin. Then it has the fibers with air pores in between so that the seed or the fruit becomes light. Then it has a hard shell so that water doesn't go in. So those are all adaptations of coconut. Then milkweed. Milkweed has what? It is a very tiny seed with hair-like structures so that it can float in air. So that is propagated by wind. Then we have Ceylonese almond, similar to coconut. It has a thick skin, then it has a porous or fibrous pericarp, and it has a shell. So that is again propagated by water. Then water lily. Again you all can remember porous pericarp and very strong shell inside so that it can easily float in water. So water lily is also propagated by water. So coconut, Ceylonese almond and water lily, they are propagated by water. Only milkweed is propagated by wind. So a seed that is not propagated by water is milkweed. Then the next one. Question number 3. Material that is not exchanged through the placenta. What is the placenta? The place where the embryonic membrane starts at the uterus wall. So you all can remember when the fertilized zygote, that is in the form of the morula, then it becomes the blastula. Blastula gets implanted inside the wall of the uterus, and thereafter, after about 6 weeks, you all can remember the embryonic sac develops. And from the place where the embryonic sac develops, there is a structure called the placenta. And that is why we call them as placental mammals. So this placenta actually regulates the transport of substances. It allows certain substance to go through it, but it doesn't allow all the substance to pass through that. So here the question is material that is not exchanged through the placenta. Through the placenta, you all can remember the umbilical cord. That is the one that connects the placenta with the fetus. So here, if you look at the substances, blood, the blood of the mother and the fetus never mixes. So the placenta will not allow the blood to go through. Oxygen, yes, goes from the mother to fetus so that the fetus can breathe. Then medicine, yes, that also can go through from the mother to the fetus. You all can remember medicines, pathogens, they can be transferred from the mother to the fetus through the placenta. So then nutrients. Nutrients are also needed by the fetus. So those are the substances going from the mother to the fetus. Then there are substances coming from the fetus to the mother. You all know that. Carbon dioxide and excretory materials. So the question here is material that is not exchanged through the placenta, that is blood. Then the fourth one, hormone that influences ovulation. So you all know, students, there are 4 hormones related to the female reproductive system. What are they? LH, luteinizing hormone. What does that do? It actually stimulates the releasing of ovum. That is the ovulation process. Then we have FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. What does that do? That stimulates the development of the Graafian follicle from the day 1 to day 40. So that is before ovulation. Then thereafter we have estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen is responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics in females. And progesterone, it is actually responsible for pregnancy and development of the fetus as well as regulating the menstrual cycle. So those are the 4 hormones related to female reproductive system. So here if we look at the hormones, FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, that is for the development of the Graafian follicle. Here the question is to hormone that influences ovulation. So follicle stimulating hormone to develop the Graafian follicle. Then progesterone for pregnancy as well as regulation of menstrual cycle. LH is the one that stimulates the ovulation. Then TSH. TSH you all know, that is thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone. You all know the thyroid gland, the gland that is present in our neck region. The thyroid gland secretes the thyroxine hormone. Thyroxine actually controls the metabolic activities of our body. And also, it actually stimulates the absorption of calcium by the body. We will discuss that later in grade 11 as well. So, TSH is a hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates the function of the thyroid gland. So, here the question is, hormone that influences ovulation, that is LH, luteinizing hormone. With that, students, we'll move on to the next question. Function of calyx. So what is a calyx? Part of the flower, and it is a whorl of sepals. So what is the function of sepals? To protect the flower in its bud stage, and normally calyx or the sepals occur in green color. If we look at the answers, it protects the flower parts in the bud stage. Yes, that is correct. It protects the flower parts in the bud stage. Helps to attract insects for pollination. What helps to attract insects for pollination? That is the petals or the corolla, because they are in different colors and shapes, even white or other colors, so that they attract insects. Then photosynthesis. Normally, photosynthesis is carried out by the plant leaves. They are the ones adapted to do photosynthesis. Then produces pollens. That takes place inside the anther. That is part of the stamen. So, here, function of calyx is to protect the flower parts in the bud stage. The first answer. Then we have the next one. Not an adaptation. Again, not an adaptation shown by plants to avoid self-pollination. What is self-pollination? Pollens from a flower fall on the stigma of the same flower. So, only one flower is involved. Because of that, there is no possibility of mixing of characteristics. So, therefore, plants always have adaptations, or most of the plants have adaptations to prevent self-pollination, so that cross-pollination will take place. In cross-pollination, pollen grains from one flower fall on the stigma of another flower of the same plant or a flower of the same species. So, they have adaptations to prevent self-pollination and to promote cross-pollination. So, not an adaptation shown by plants to avoid self-pollination. Bisexual flowers. If you have bisexual flowers, both the androecium and the gynoecium will be present in the same flower. So then there is a chance of self-pollination taking place. So that is not an adaptation to prevent self-pollination. Then self-sterility. Yes, if the pollens of the flower fall on the stigma of the same flower, it will not develop into the pollen tube or fertilization will not take place. So that is an adaptation to prevent self-pollination. Then exostamens, what are those? Either the stamens are bent outside while the stigma is straight, or the stigma is bent outwards while the stamens are straight, so that the pollens from that flower will not fall on the stigma of the same flower. The next one is hercogamy. What is hercogamy? There is a distance between the anther and the stigma, so that the pollens don't fall on the stigma. For example, if you take the orchid flower, the anther and the stigma are spaced apart so that they don't fall on the same stigma. So all these three, self-sterility, exostamen and hercogamy, are adaptations shown by plants to prevent self-pollination. So here the question is not an adaptation. So that is the presence of bisexual flowers. Question number 6, answer is 1. I am sure up to now you all have answered all the questions correctly. With that, students, I am going to move on to the next question. Question number 7. The hormone that is responsible for the secondary sexual characteristics of males. So, the development of secondary sexual characteristics of males. There is only one hormone related to the male reproductive system. What is that? It is testosterone. Testosterone is a lipid hormone. You all know that. So, estrogen is related to female reproductive system. Again, secondary sexual characteristics. Progesterone, female reproductive system, that is involved with the menstrual cycle and pregnancy as well. Then thyroxine, like we discussed before, thyroxine is a hormone secreted by the thyroid gland. Again, it regulates the metabolic activities of the body. Then testosterone is the hormone that is produced in the male reproductive organ testis, and it is responsible for the secondary sexual characteristics of males. So here the answer is testosterone. Then question number 8. Fusion of sperm and ovum takes place in, where does that take place? That is the fertilization process. In man, it takes place inside the female body, inside the fallopian tube. You all can remember the sperm enters through the vagina, swims through the uterus and enters the fallopian tube. At the same time, ovum that is released from the ovaries, with the movement of the fimbria, they enter the fallopian tube. So they both move towards each other, and inside the fallopian tube, fertilization takes place. So fusion of sperm and ovum takes place inside the fallopian tube. That is correct. Inside the uterus is the development of fetus after fertilization. Inside the ovary, it is the development of primary follicle to Graafian follicle, then releasing of ovum, and thereafter the Graafian follicle becoming corpus luteum and corpus albicans. Then inside the vagina, the sperm is released into the vagina. Normally the semen is released into the vagina. So those are the parts of the female reproductive system, and in that, inside the fallopian tube only, fusion of sperm and ovum takes place. So with that, student, I will move on to the next question. Question number 9. The disease caused by the human immune deficiency virus. What is human immune deficiency virus? HIV. HIV causes AIDS. So gonorrhea, what is the organism or the pathogen that causes gonorrhea? Neisseria gonorrhea, that is a bacteria. Then AIDS, yes, it is the human immune deficiency virus. Then syphilis. Syphilis is also caused by a bacteria. And then herpes. Herpes is caused by a virus called the herpes simplex. So there The disease caused by the human immune deficiency virus is AIDS. Then question number 10. Structure that is not part of the gynosium is. So what is a gynosium or a pistil? It is the female reproductive structure of the flower. So in the gynosium, you have the stigma, you have the ovary, then we have the style. But the filament is part of the androecium. Filament and anther make up the stamen. So here structure that is not part of the gynosium is filament. Stigma, style and ovary are the three parts of the gynosium. So with that students, I'll move on to the next question. Select the answer that shows the incorrect combination. So here again you have to look at the incorrect combination. So what is the combination given? Corm and Haberella. What is corm? It is an underground stem that is involved in the vegetative reproduction of plants. So is that correct? Yes. Haberella is reproduced or vegetatively propagated by corm. That is correct. Then we have the next one, rhizome turmeric. That is also correct. Rhizome is again an underground stem that is a propagative stem. Then bulbil leeks. Is that correct? No. Bulbils are usually for pineapple, jute, hondala. Those are reproduced by bulbils. So that is incorrect. Then bulb onions. That is correct. Bulbs again is an underground stem. Now bulbil is an over the ground or aerial stem. So bulb, underground stem, that is examples are red onion, big onion. Even leeks are reproduced by bulbs. So here that is also correct. Corm, Haberella, rhizome, turmeric, bulb, onions, correct. But bulbils, leeks is not an example. So select the answer that shows the incorrect combination, bulbil and leeks. Then we have the 12th question. So question number 12, monoecious plants. Monoecious plants, there is only one plant that possesses both the male flower and the female flower in the same plant. For example, if you take coconut. Coconut has male flowers and female flowers separately. Those are unisexual flowers, but both flowers are present in the same plant. So there is only one plant that contains both the flowers. Corn is another example. So, monoecious plants. Bears bisexual flowers. No. Bisexual flowers, they are not called monoecious or dioecious plants. They don't come under both the categories. If they have bare female flowers only. If they have female flowers only, they are female trees. So, they come under dioecious plants. Bear male flowers only? Yes, again they are dioecious plants. So dioecious means there are two types of plants. One plant bears female flowers, the other plant bears male flowers. For example, we can consider papaya. But bears both male and female flowers? Yes, that is monoecious plants. So they bear both male and female flowers. So I am sure students, you would have answered all these questions up to now correctly. With that, I am going to move on to the next question. Question number 15. Incorrect statement regarding a sperm. Again, incorrect statement regarding a sperm. So, if we look at the statements, the first one, can survive in the body temperature. Can they survive in the body temperature? The normal human body temperature is about 37 degrees Celsius. A little less or more, you all know that, but 37 degrees Celsius. That is a high temperature. The sperms cannot survive in that temperature. That is why the testis is present in a scrotum or the scrotal sac or testis sac that is kept outside the body. So that statement is incorrect. Then the second one, consists of three parts, namely head, body and tail. That you know. Yes. The head contains the nucleus. Then the body has all the mitochondria that is needed to produce energy. And there is the tail. Tail helps the sperm to swim through the vagina and uterus and to reach the fallopian tube. So that is also correct. Then the third one, The body contains lot of mitochondria. Yes, I told you all now. Body has lot of mitochondria so that it can produce the energy needed for the movement of the sperm. And matured sperm is motile. That is also correct. The matured sperm can move. So, matured sperm is motile. So, the incorrect statement regarding a sperm is can survive in the body temperature. That is the first answer. Then, we have question number 16. A step that does not occur in the secretory phase in the uterus. So, what is the secretory phase? Now, you all can remember, students, the menstrual cycle. It has 3 phases. What is the first phase? Inside the uterus, first phase is menstrual phase. Second one is proliferation. During menstrual phase, the wall of the ovary is expelled out with blood. Then during the proliferation phase, again the ovary wall starts to rebuild. And during the third phase, that is the secretory phase, that is the last 14 days. What happens there? All the glands in the ovary walls become active and therefore there are a lot of secretions and the wall of the ovary becomes larger. So that is what happens during the secretory phase in the uterus. Uterine wall thickens. That is correct. Then body temperature increases slightly. That is also correct, students. You all can remember we looked at the temperature graph. So there, with the changes taking place in the uterus and the ovary, the body temperature increases during the secretory phase. So first is correct, second is correct. Then the third one, expelling of the uterine wall. When does that happen? That happens during the menstrual phase, the first phase of the menstrual cycle in the uterus. Then progesterone level increases. That is also correct. With the progesterone level only, that is the hormone that actually stimulates the rebuilding of the uterus wall. So that is also correct. Then that means a step that does not occur in the secretory phase in the uterus is expelling of the uterine wall. Expelling of the uterine wall. So, I am sure up to now you all are all okay with the questions. You would have answered them correctly. I have 4 more MCQ questions. Question number 17. Not an agent of pollination. So, you all know there are 3 agents of pollination. What are they? Animals, and out of animals mostly insects. We call them the zoophilous flowers. Then there is wind. Then the flowers are known as aerophilous or anemophilous flowers, and the agent water. Then we call the flowers as hydrophilous flowers. So here not an agent of pollination. Animals, wind, water, yes, those are the 3 agents. Explosive mechanism. Where have we come across that? That is dispersal of fruits and seeds. Some of the fruits and seeds like drumstick, cotton, even balsam, all these plants are adapted to explode due to either touch, dry weather conditions or even moisture, so that the seeds will get dispersed. So that is not an agent of pollination. Explosive mechanism. Then we have question number 18. The hormone that is responsible for the secondary sexual characteristics of females. So, secondary sexual characteristics of female, what is the hormone? It is estrogen, produced by the ovary, and that is responsible for the secondary sexual characteristics. So, first answer estrogen, that is correct. Then LH is the luteinizing hormone. I told you all before also, it actually stimulates the releasing of ovum, or the ovulation process is stimulated by LH. Then we have FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. What is that? It stimulates the development of Graafian follicle. From the primary follicle, Graafian follicle develops during the first 14 days or from day 1 to day 13, so that the ovulation can take place on day 14, that is within the ovary. So, FSH stimulates the development of Graafian follicle. Then testosterone is a hormone related to the male reproductive system. It is responsible for the development of male secondary sexual characteristics and also spermatogenesis. So the question here is the hormone that is responsible for the secondary sexual characteristics of females. So that is estrogen. With that, students, I will move on to the next question. Question number 90. Sperms produced in the male reproductive system are temporarily stored in the, is it stored in the testis? No. Testis is the structure in which the sperms are produced. You all can remember there are convoluted tubules. What are they called? The seminiferous tubules. Inside the seminiferous tubules, there are the sperm mother cells, and the sperm mother cells are there to produce the sperm. So, production of sperms take place in the testis. Then what about the scrotal sac? Scrotal sac is present outside the body, so the testis is kept outside the body so that the sperms are not affected by the body temperature. Then epididymis. Epididymis is the structure above the testis. You all can remember, if this is the testis, above that again these are convoluted tubules, and inside that only the sperms are stored. You can remember from the lobules of the testis, all the vas efferences. They come out and they take the sperm into the epididymis. So that is where sperms are temporarily stored within the male reproductive system. Then vas deferens. From the epididymis, it takes the sperms into the seminal vesicles. That is the function of the vas deferens. So here it is epididymis. Then question number 20. Not a characteristic feature of a seed dispersal by wind. So here it is seed dispersal by wind. So you all know, students, different seeds and fruits, they have adaptation to be dispersed by either animals, wind, water, or by explosive mechanisms. So if it is by wind, what are the adaptations? The seeds are very light. They are produced in very large number. They are very tiny seeds. Then they have hair-like structures so that they can float with the wind. They can even have wing-like structures. So that also facilitates the floating in the wind. So those are some of the adaptations of the plant when the seeds are dispersed by wind. Seeds being very light, that is correct. Then possess wings to float, that is also correct. Then seeds are sticky. For what? If the seeds are dispersed by animals, so that the seeds can stick to the body of the animals or even to our dress. You all can remember the tuttiri or love grass. That has very sticky, tiny seeds. So they stick to the body of the animal. So seeds are sticky. That is irrelevant for dispersal by wind. Then produced in large number. Yes, because they have to be dispersed by wind. There's a possibility most of them can get lost with the wind. In the sense they can go to places where they cannot germinate. So they need to be produced in a large number. So out of all these, not a characteristic feature of a seed dispersed by wind is the seeds are being sticky. So that is the last question under multiple choice type questions, students. So I am sure you all have understood all the questions and you all have answered them correctly. And hereafter I will be discussing some long questions. So you all read the question first and answer them, and thereafter you can listen to my discussion. So okay, students. So with that I will end this chapter. In the next chapter, as I told you all, I will discuss the long questions starting from extra question 2.